even provide you with the envelope, let alone the stamp, or I suppose the average individual contacts the F.C.C. and gets down on all fours and barks and begs and grovels for mercy.
Or they hire a lawyer. What does the lawyer do?
The lawyer does the barking and begging for them because I have some experience in that area, but that's not the route that I'm going to pursue.
They plea bargain down to a lesser
offense.
No. You have not committed it. It's an
apparent
violation. What is an apparent violation? It's nothing.
Nothing. It's like alleged.
It's like it's a scam is what it is. It's extortion.
Exactly.
We found that you have committed an apparent violation, and you must pay us $17,500, or we'll break down your door and confiscate all your equipment, and maybe we'll charge you with criminal charges and send you to jail. Now, what they do when they do that is a crime. It's called extortion.
Yes.
It's operating under the color of law, which is another crime under their own federal regulations, United States Code, and carries with it some stiff fines and punishments.
$10,000 and I think a term of a year, or a term at least a year.
Yeah, $10,000 always equates to a minimum of 1 year. Could be more, but a year and or both. Now, so how in the world did you get hooked up with me? What are you doing on this radio show?
Who put me in touch with you and decided that you are the tower of knowledge here. You are the person I need to hang around with, I guess. I'm learning a lot just in my few conversations with you, and here we are today airing this so everyone gets to find out what their government is up to, or at least those that are conscious.
So you had documents and letters all typed up and everything that you were ready to send. What did you find out about that?
Well, actually, I almost committed a most grievous breach. You're going to throw me off the show when I tell you what you know, but I retained an attorney. So we don't have some boos and hisses there, because boy, is that a joyride. But my attorney is going to do, I think, exactly what you said. He's going to plea bargain me down to a lesser offense. And my attorney doesn't know this yet, but of course he will by the time this is aired. That's not going to happen at all. I have prepared my own non-response. It is not responding to their alleged their notice of apparent violation or whatever it is. I am demanding that the Federal Communications Commission show the point of law that gives them the authority to regulate this radio station. And if they do not produce that within 10 days, two things are going to happen. Number one, the station's going back on the air, and number two, I'm going to file my own action in federal court against the individual agents involved in this illegal harassment. And we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting.
But you're also going to file criminal charges.
Yes.
And you're going to file for an injunction.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. Now, most people who have tried to do what you're doing now before have always buckled under when they come to the door, or they've always fought the battle on the wrong points of law.
Oh yes. They'll fight it on First Amendment, or they'll say, well, the commission should do. They don't fight it. They don't fight it logically at all. I mean, they pull the wildest things out of the air that you could possibly imagine.
And they don't do the research. They don't cite.
No, they don't do any research. They've never looked up Section 301, and right under Section 301, it refers you to Section 151 and 152, and one of them's intrastate, and the other's powers of the commission. And it's like a puzzle. It just all starts to fall together. And here are all these court cases under each of these sections, which validate, in this case, my argument.
Now, let me tell you, dear listeners, that it's not just the F.C.C. that is doing this. As you've heard on other broadcasts of the hour of the time, the only hour that is, ever was, or ever will be, the hour during which you will decide your future and thus our collective futures. You've heard that the IRS also does this. You've also heard that the Food and Drug Administration also does this. And right on down the line, there's not an agency of the federal government that has not been infiltrated by the secret societies who are bent upon destroying this country, who are not taking away, under color of law, illegally, criminally, the rights of the citizens of this country. And that's going to stop. And that's the whole purpose of this radio station, this broadcast, is to make sure that it does stop. And the reason for having Mr. Dougan on tonight. And we're going to put it so that you guys listening, or you girls, or whoever it happens to be, you can go out tomorrow, purchase your equipment, make sure that you've got the right equipment, make sure that you're not broadcasting any farther than
don't cross any state lines.
That's right. And make sure you stick to the letter of the law. Make sure you're on a frequency that in no way at all could ever be misconstrued to interfere with an interstate broadcast.
And this is very important because most people, first of all, they don't have a clue about how to do this. Conducting this frequency research does not mean turning on your 995 tabletop radio and going, here's the blank spot on the dial, I'm going to put a station here. Because there's a person that's done that right now in California, and he's not faring too well.
And I would advise that you stick to FM. And all of you should contact each other, form a strong association. Do not incorporate. Make sure that you don't make any profit. Form a strong, self-supportive association where you can be strong and together, collectively,
and don't hire an attorney.
Challenge the F.C.C. in court every time they step on your toes, or even attempt to step on your toes. And you're going to find out how to get back at them. You can't sue the F.C.C. because it's part of the government without the government's permission, so don't even try. What you do when they perform these criminal acts, and what you do when they violate the law under the color of law and attempt to extort money from you or to coerce you into doing something that you do not have to do. You don't sue the F.C.C., folks. That's the wrong avenue to take. You press criminal charges against the individual agents in the F.C.C.
And that can run from 1 to 10. You never know how many are going to show up. Right now, the number with me is 3. And it can be any number.
You have to get
5, you can have 2.
You have to get their name, address, phone number. If they won't give you their private address, you have to get their work address, and they have to give you that. If they're acting as an agency, they have to give you their office address. Then you file civil suit against them for the violation of your constitutional and civil rights. And then you link up with the Pilot Connection, 6333 Pacific Avenue, Suite 334, Stockton, California, 95207. Or you can call them at area code 209-957-5493. That's 209-957-5493. Now, their services aren't free, folks. It'll cost you some money, but it's well worth it. They'll not only teach you how to get free of the IRS, but they can teach you how to file a $1 million common law suit against these people. A common law lien, if you will, a $1 million common law lien against these people and their property. And that can't be lifted by anyone but you. So they have to eventually come and talk to you. Why is it that the lien can't be lifted by anyone but you? Simply because there are no common law courts left in this country. And believe me, folks, when you file a common law lien against their property, the only one that can lift it is you. And if you want to pursue it, the sheriff must go and confiscate that property and turn it over to you under the law. We're going to talk about that in tomorrow's program. Right now, we're going to take a little break, and then we'll come back and talk some more about what's happened with Bill Dougan. And it's time that we began to stand up and protect our rights, take our rights back from those who would usurp them, and in thus doing so, take back our country, because we're rapidly losing it.
Top story tonight. Federal agents raid what they call an illegal pirate radio station right here in our valley. Agents from the Federal Communications Commission ordered the operation shut down. But tonight, the station remains on the air. The low-power station operates from a homemade studio in North Phoenix, near 5th Street and Union Hills. And broadcasts from that station do reach only a few short miles away, but that's enough to get the attention of federal agents. Mike Macklin spoke with a man who runs what he calls Arizona's most controversial radio station. Mike's here now. Tell us about him.
Claire, it's very controversial. 4 months ago, Bill Dougan fired up his new radio station in North Phoenix. Tonight, the FCC ordered him to shut it down. It is not a powerhouse, 2 watts at the most, but it seems to be creating a rather powerful reaction with federal officials.
To get into court, I ask you to do tonight is to shut your radio station down. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Representatives of the Federal Communications Commission confront Bill Dougan in front of his house in North Phoenix. They do not appreciate his low-power FM station known as KAPW.
Now, my job is to get unlicensed stations off the air.
Why?
Because it's against the law.
Why? Don't the radio waves belong to the public?
No,
they don't belong to the public? No, you don't want to debate that because you'll lose.
No,
you'll lose because I know the people that are listening to this broadcast right now know that the radio waves belong to the people and the government has taken them away.
The debate centers on a tiny transmitter located in a reconditioned backyard studio, a controversial signal that only stretches a few miles. Bill Dougan programs 4 hours a night, 6 nights a week on 88.9 FM, a mix of recorded talk shows and ethnic programs, a non-profit operation.
And I guarantee you're not going to hear it anywhere else in the state of Arizona. Radio like you've never heard before.
And may not hear much longer. Dougan vows to keep broadcasting, even though he's up against the U.S. government.
Let's take this into court, and let's let the people decide. I'd like a jury of 12 people to sit here and say Bill Dougan is guilty of some crime. And I don't think it'll happen.
KAPW continues operating, but maybe not for long. The FCC plans to turn the case over to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Most likely, they will end up confiscating Dougan's radio equipment if he refuses to shut down.
Now, how did the FCC find out about his radio station in the first place?
Well, Claire, a few complaints were lodged with the Arizona Attorney General's office. The AG's office then informed the FCC about the situation, and those representatives showed up at his house tonight.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mike.
The Phoenix Police tonight investigating yet another murder in our valley. The body
tells us now the FCC wants to shut down what is billed as Arizona's most controversial radio station, Frank?
That's right, Heidi. Now, if you're looking for KAPW-FM, you can find it on 88.9 on your FM dial. But if you turn it on right now, all you're going to get is static, because the station only operates between the hours of 6 and 10. And while it may be small, its owner says the point he's trying to make is very big.
This brings to the conclusion yet another edition of the Bill and Wald Show right here on Arizona's most controversial radio.
Earlier tonight, KAPW was still on the air, even after being visited by FCC representatives. They were there to explain to Bill Dougan that his makeshift radio station, which is housed in a shed adjacent to his trailer home, is on the air illegally.
There's a violation of law here. You must have an authorization from the Federal Communications Commission to operate a broadcast station in the United States.
We hear the airwaves belong to the public, but where does the public get a chance to express their views on the air, to take control of a radio station, to set the direction of the programming? Well, here's one place. It's small, but it's the beginning.
But with all beginnings, there is an end, and the end for KAPW isn't far off. The FCC is planning to take whatever steps necessary to pull the plug on the radio station.
Otherwise, you would just have chaos if there wasn't some control and limits on the stations. They would operate on the same frequency and with powers such that they would interfere with one another, and we couldn't have a radio broadcast service in this country.
Now, I don't know what's going to happen when the marshals come knocking on my door, because I'm just not going to open it up and say, well, here, guys, take everything. I would give them the transmitter if I thought that would pacify them, but of course, how hard is it for me to get another transmitter? It's not hard at all, so I hope it doesn't get ugly.
Now, Dougan, as you heard, is adamant that he's going to try to keep his radio station on the air, and the FCC is just as adamant, Heidi, that they're going to turn him off. And that impasse could be resolved in the next day or two. FCC officials say that they probably will try to get some search warrants and have the U.S. Marshals out here to pull the plug on KAPW-FM.
All right. Thank you, Frank.
That was the actual news coverage of
the night, the famous night.
The famous night.
Yes.
And they ended by saying that the FCC was going to get a warrant, try to get the warrants, get the federal marshals, and come and seize your equipment. What have they done?
Nothing.
The reason they haven't done anything is because they can't under the law, and that's why they sent you a notice of apparent violation. One thing that I always tell people on this show is don't jump into the pool if you're not willing to swim the distance. Are you ready and willing to go the whole distance on this?